Meow.
Oh, hey there, Mick. I was just working on this machine that I decided to make, modeled after your poorly named stupid generator.
I didn't name it, it was the other Meg. He's now been dealt with. Sorry.
Dude, that's disgusting. Don't you have any manners?
No, I do not. Besides, it's not like anyone in the audience can smell it.
Yeah, but I can.
Anyway, what you doing to the thingy?
Ugh. I'm making some changes to your stupid generator. I just copied it, and now I'm going to make it into a power generator that feeds off smart thoughts and videos.
Huh, really? Well, I call shenanigans. I demand we do a comparison test and see how it works. I say we get a stupid video and inject some sense into it.
Oh, now you want to break my machine with your stupidness? Just because you own the channel doesn't mean you can just demand things or receive what you want like some kind of corrupted needy king. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt you.
Huzzah! Besides, you can just copy your own machine before we begin, and that way you'll have a backup.
Copy my machine? Do you know how long it will take to make another one from scratch? It would take at least a week.
Then behold the power of editing!
12 seconds later.
Bam, 30 seconds and we're done.
What? What? That shouldn't be possible. You just, broke all the rules of reality. I spent an entire week copying your stupid machine, no pun intended, and now you do that? What else can you do? Make 10 more mix pop up out of nowhere and ramble on and on about cookies?
Yes!
Ugh,
Cookies!
I seriously have no idea why I'm friends with you.
So, what do you want to do? Homeopathy? Feminism? Islam? Some other religion? Or maybe something that I wouldn't be repeating myself in this sentence. I really want to do something sciencey. Luna is best pony.
I do have an idea, though.
Pinky is best pony.
What about we talk about those people who believe in the Earth being flat?
With pleasure. A perfect combination of basic physics and advanced stupidity.
Water, when unmanipulated, is to find its level. So whether you look at a cup of water, a bathtub, a swimming pool, a lake, or the ocean, it's flat.
Ah, boy. This is gonna be fun. Okay, so the problem with water here is the scale. I know we've probably had this excuse a million times before, but here, let me explain this. So on the ball Earth model, we believe that Earth is enormous, to say the least. So I have made what I think is a relatively enormous ball in GIMP that you can see on the screen here, at least a fragment of it. Now, it may look pretty much flat to you, especially if you don't, put a line to us and measure it or something. But that's because simply the ball is so big, which is why it looks so flat. And especially if you cover it in water, water is going to simply add another layer, which means it's going to be actually even bigger by the level of water, and that's why it looks flat. You simply don't see the whole thing. And just to illustrate this, I've made two rectangles. These are basically identical, except one of them is leaning to 1 degree. You might not be able to tell the difference with your naked eye, especially if you're watching this on a small screen like I usually do, but the difference is there. It's just so minuscule that it's very difficult for our eyes to perceive it. Oh, and in case you're wondering why the hell water isn't flowing off of the ball Earth, this is due to a little thing called gravity. Gravity is the reason we experience the sensation of down. And gravity works this way. Big objects attract small objects. So when you have a tiny object such as a human on top of a bigger object such as a planet, the human is attracted not to some arbitrary direction of down, but towards the planet. That's why when you have humans on the other side of the planet, like say Australia, they also experience a down, and its opposite direction as we do, the center of the Earth. However, for them it is that down because this is the dominant force that they are feeling on their body constantly. This also applies to water. This is why you place an upside down cup full of water on the table and then lift it up. The water doesn't just stay as a one big pile. There is nothing to hold it together in a form like this, so it just gravitates quote-unquote downwards towards the Earth. And going back to the minuscule differences between angles in the previous thing, that's why it looks like it's flat. Because even if it may be, a little bit lower, the difference in height is going to be so minuscule that we will never notice it.
We have 0 authentic pictures of the Earth and they're all composites, and NASA even admits that they Photoshop Earth images.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Full quote length, please.
On numerous occasions, NASA admits that we can't go beyond low Earth orbit, which is between 99 miles and 1,200 miles away. The interesting thing is that the moon is said to be 238,000 miles away, which is a difference of 236,800 miles.
I think that they meant that it's not commercially viable, but you don't provide any kind of a source for this, so I can't verify that. And furthermore, if going to low Earth orbit was actually impossible, wouldn't there be, no moon at all? And yet, I frequently see Lady Luna in the sky. Dear pretty one.
No matter if you're on the ground, on top of a building, a mountain, a hot air balloon, an airplane, or looking at high-altitude amateur balloon footage, the horizon never fails to rise right to your eyes.
This whole horizon thing kinda doesn't make any sense, at least not to me. I have no idea what you mean, man. But I do have an idea of what you might mean, so I'm going to address that. So, for Strawman, he probably should explain his ideas better. See, the horizon is just an arbitrary designation we give for the limit of our sight on Earth. See, if you have a person on the ground on a perfectly spherical Earth, which is going to be symbolized by this football here on the screen, they are only going to be able to see so far in either of the two directions seen on the picture. However, this is only in 2 dimensions, which is up, down, left, and right. If you add the 3rd dimension, thus giving the Earth a ball, this same range is going to be the same no matter which way you turn yourself. You are always going to have the same distance of vision when you're standing on said ball. And since this is in every direction, it creates a circle when viewed from the top and a flat line when viewed from the perspective of your user. You're simply either in the middle of the circle or slightly above the 0 point, which is why the horizon looks flat and why it constantly quote-unquote rises to your eyes.
Whether you are looking at Toronto's skyline from Niagara on the lake, 31 miles away.
Oh, well, I already know where you're going with this, and here's a spoiler. It's not because the Earth is flat. See, this only happens in certain conditions, and, well, I'm not a very good explainer. I'm going to link you to a video by Armored Skeptic who explains how this works pretty well.
In 1887, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley conducted what's known as the Michelson-Morley experiment. This experiment was attempting to prove the speculated motion of the Earth around the Sun. And when it failed, Albert Einstein was forced to form the theory of relativity to overcome this problem.
This experiment was actually trying to detect ether, something that people at the time suspected the light was moving through. The experiment failed, and the information we gained from that eventually led to the development of the theory of relativity. Einstein did not purposefully try to develop the theory of relativity simply to hide the fact that the Earth is flat. And even if it was flat, what the fuck makes you think he was part of the conspiracy? And if it's so long-lasting, why the fuck have people not yet been confirmed to come out against governments and then be assassinated a few days later when they blow the cover on the entire operation?
The Sun is claimed to be 93 million miles away, with a radius of over 400,000 miles, but can easily be proven to be much closer and smaller by tracing the crepuscular rays back to its origin in the sky. If the Sun were indeed 93 million miles away, it would simply be impossible to have angled sun rays, as they should all consistently come in straight.
Just like this road isn't actually straight. It's actually getting increasingly more narrow the further it gets. This is just an optical illusion, man. The corpuscular rays suffer from the same kind of thing. Here are some pictures of corpuscular rays from orbit.
According to the globular theory, a lunar eclipse occurs when the Sun, Earth, and Moon are in a direct line. But it is on record that since about the 15th century, over 50 eclipses have occurred while both the Sun and Moon are visible above the horizon.
Oh my god. Look, the moon is a lot smaller than the Earth. The sun is a lot bigger than the Earth. There is not a single possible alignment in which the moon could eclipse the entire sun. At least, not planet-wide. This is why lunar eclipses are local. The damn thing is simply not large enough to make a planet-wide lunar eclipse, which is why it's possible to see the moon and the sky at the same time.
I completely understand that the idea of a flattened stationary Earth seems ridiculous in many ways.
Because it is.
But that's only because we are taught the false globe model from the very first time that we enter a school classroom. Not to mention the first time we are introduced to the concept of a flat Earth. It's depicted as a highly laughable world where ships, boats, and water would run off of the edge.
Because it is.
So I do get it, but it's all part of the deception.
Why? No, really, please. Fucking... Seriously, tell me, why would anyone want to deceive us? If the Earth was actually flat, don't you think that the thousands of hundreds of scientists that are investigating the goddamn thing every day, even people like you, quote-unquote independent researchers who want to, find out about the reality of the world, why do you think anybody would want to lie about that? For what purpose could that serve? No, seriously, what would, is it just to hide the fact that, why? Like, I'm sorry, but I see not a single practical application of just the fact that the Earth is flat. I mean, what would that help with? Air travel? I mean, we pretty much already have that figured out. And if the Earth was really flat, then you would be able to see Australia from the United States, which you can't, no matter how high in a hot air balloon you go. But given good enough optic instruments such as telescopes and relatively stable high-altitude position, you should be able to find Australia if the Earth is actually flat if you start out in, I don't know, say Florida. What else? Telecommunications? Well, yeah, that would be incredibly useful to have a flat Earth. But wouldn't there be fewer problems and easier satellite communications if we had it? I mean, and what about a moon? Wouldn't we, like, see the moon going down somewhere? What about space travel? Actually, I'm pretty sure that having a flat Earth would be incredibly useful for space travel. I mean, you'll be able to just put your freaking shuttle on a V3 launcher, drive to the edge of the world, and just slingshot the damn thing off of the back of the turtle that we're sitting on. And yet, in physics, in technology, in pretty much everything, we have the irrefutable assumption that the Earth is actually a ball when it comes to any sort of calculation. So, if the Earth was actually flat, wouldn't that be a lot simpler then, if you didn't have to account for that? So please explain the purpose, the reason behind the deception. I'm not even asking you to prove it, okay? Let's, for the sake of the argument, assume that you are correct and that we are being lied to and that the Earth is actually flat. Why?
Now, after almost 2 years of research, I'm certain that the Earth is flat. We are told that the Earth spins at 1,040 miles per hour, while the Earth travels around the Sun at 66,000 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the whole solar system is going inside the Milky Way galaxy at a speed of 490,000 miles per hour. And finally, the entire Milky Way galaxy is darting through infinite space at over 1 million miles per hour. Most people believe this.
Wow, finally, fucking finally, a cohesive argument for the possibility of having a flat stationary Earth. And at this point, I'm honestly too exhausted to even bother debunking it. Yeah, that does sound ludicrous. But you know what? I can play it. Yeah, it's actually not that incredibly hard to imagine. I mean, just get on a train and kick a ball. I mean, if that can happen, then it's not that unreasonable that the same thing can't be happening here, right? Right?
The same thing goes for curvature. It's never been proven, and the only time we see it is in movies, NASA CGI, or when we're looking through a distorted fisheye lens. With all that said, please continue to research critically and don't be afraid to ask reasonable questions and speak out.
Why do you have to be on a mountain to be able to see further on the Earth? If you were on a flat Earth, wouldn't you be able to just see the entirety of the planet? Simply, you know, the actual mountains and indents and things like that notwithstanding? That would mean that the curvature does exist. Not only that, but the sun also turns redder when it sets. So naturally it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that it has to travel through more atmosphere. But if that's the case, then wouldn't the further away from center countries experience less of this and not report it? I mean, you could pretty much go outside at any point on the globe and see that the sun does turn redder when it sets. Why do you see the ships quote-unquote sinking into the ocean even though they are not, as they get further and further away from you? How would you explain any of those phenomena on a flat Earth?
If the world is indeed flat, then how come there's no literal board around the edge of the world, like to keep things from falling off like water and such? Also, say you travel the entire world, how do you end up at the same airport you started at? It's not like you teleported to the other side of the flat Earth. It makes no sense.
And if the Earth is actually flat, then what exactly does determine the direction of down? Do we happen to just be lucky to be on the correct side of the world where we just fall off of the bottom of it? And if it's kind of like a coin where it's got two sides and they both go towards the center, then what about the sides? Wouldn't the sides also have the same kind of force that pushes them towards the center? And if you accept that explanation, how is that any different than a globe Earth? Are those questions reasonable enough for you? Or I came up with all of those on the spot, by the way. I mean, I doubt you're probably even gonna see this video because you would have been buried in a ton of other quote-unquote debunking videos. But I mean, if you do get to this point, please do respond. I'm almost willing to beg you because I mostly make these videos in order to see if I can change somebody's mind, if I can get somebody to think. And honestly, you did make me think. This whole going through cosmos at ludicrous speeds thing, yeah, I mean, I guess it could have been in the back of my mind all this time, but I never really considered it until this point. Well, this thing alone is not enough to convince me because, like I said before, I have a lot of questions that I believe are pretty reasonable. Wouldn't, you know, I mean, I thank you. And if I get you to think, well, perhaps we can set up a debate, exchange some ideas, make responses back and forth between one another, debunking the other's videos, like in the golden age of YouTube. The worst that's gonna happen is that one of us gains a lot of subscribers while the other one lies in the dust. And that's the end of the video. Hey Alex, any results?
Let me check. Yeah, that's a 3. There's barely enough power for the smart generator to turn on a light bulb.
So, I are not of smarts?
Sorry.
Ikri every team.
Now, let's see how much power the stupid generator made. Uh-oh.
What was it?
20.
That ain't good. It won't overload, will it?
Don't worry. I can still roll the resistance on the conductors, and it's a 1.
Ah, fuck.